A very good afternoon, my dear students. We will go for the continuation of IDPS, intrusion detection prevention system, and the corresponding terminology and technologies related as part of the information security. So you can identify the awareness and the what way the signal representation, how we can stimulate the various type of negative remarks and the positive attitudes. So how the regional space level of the information available to us and the true attack of this and what is the confidential value weightage. These are the important terminology would like to define once you say IDPS, intrusion detection prevention system in any information security. See, generally, if any sort of intrusion available, why basically required? What are the significant features of that one? If you find out the prevent problem behavior, we keep on increasing, correct? No, the people who are all coming to do a problematic, some sort of a negative impact in any organization, to any entrepreneurship, and obviously system where exactly the resources which are going to be provide a contribution take into matter of a risk of recovery, a risk of discovery, as well as there should be a policy of punishment which are available. And you can find out the identification of attacks, that means to say detection of attacks and other security violation. In what forum this type of the violations are going to be appear and in which way it are going to be happening. Is it possible to detect these attacks? And similar fashion, what are all the preamble to attacks? See, ones which are going to be identified, detect, and is it possible to deal their corresponding characteristic features, so properties are available. No? Similarly, there any sort of a document evidence the existing threat to an organization available within the organization or outside the organization. No? And also the quality of control. There should be a performance analysis factor. So, meanwhile, there should be a quality measuring parameters available, how the security design and the administration, especially for a large set and as well as a medium and the complex level of enterprises available, which provide a very, very useful information such a way that how the intrusion which are going to be happen in an organization, which are going to be take place. So what are the impact, what are the properties, so how which are going to be affecting and around the organization, all we can easily have. That means to say, if any sort of negative impact flow going to be detect, identified, which are going to be violate the security options. So any sort of a data system, so user, and also the manpower, physical security, network security, personal security, information security, data security, whatnot. For any sort of a regional space also you can identify, those are the chances of attacking options. See, we can categorically, based on the way in which way attacking or the intrusion happening, you can distinguish a detection methods. One is on signature based, that means to say, whoever it may be going to be happening, appearing to the data, appearance to the system, appearance through pass through the network. Then you can call it as signature based. The second one is statistical anomaly. See, generally what will happen? We figure out such a way that there are 100 users are available. Within the 100 users only, if any chances of finding a negative remarks or negative comments. So those are called statistical anomaly based. See, if you make a team, together everybody a team, in that one, among 100 members, so the percentage of the successful and the performance evaluation, not 100%. But if you think about how best way, the 10% or 15%, whatever the percentage, no, that is also going to be anomaly. You can call it as easily measured with respect to the negative remarks made by the organization from the user level, from the system level, from the data level, and whatnot, which are going to be focusing to predominantly provide an extensive knowledge. You can say statistical. There should be a figurative information you can come across. If it's a 75% no full-fledged security, then 25% obviously you can find out insecurity. Similarly, like that way, vice versa, whatever the percentage, you can stateful packet inspection. See, any sort of a information flow which are going to be above IP, internet packet and internet protocol, whatever it may be. See, these packets which are going to be perform, we can measure the value of, we can call it as payload. One parameter is there in IP. If you go through the cross section of IP, other than the classification, no, you can find out like a payload, offset to, onset to. If we are making use a network base, if we are making use an authenticated one, if we are making use an authorization one, then you can call it a stateful packet inspection. You have to inspect such a way that these are the concerned packet with security, without security. That means to say, intrusion detection systems operates as network based as well as host based. Keep in mind, if you make use a class A, 16 by 16, 16 by 16. Similarly, if you go with a class B, then 8 by 24. If you go with a class C, then once again 24 by 8, like that. These are the way how which are going to be. Network based, total number of network addresses. Host based, number of systems are connected in a network. Suppose X is a network, you can identify X1, X2, X of L, which are going to be host based. All these, especially intrusion detection systems, use one of these three standard detection methods. I told you very clearly, image is going to be appearing on the system itself only, mirroring of any sort of the value representation of the person, and who passed through the network. We can call it a signature. In order to measure a figurative within the level, within the factorial representation of organization, how many number of users are working, who are all positive, who are all negative. Then you can say anomaly based statistical anomaly. Similarly, stateful packet, because of in which way you can measure a physical level of identity. If you look at such a way that you can find out intrusion data, IDS, examining in which way the packets on network and alerts administrators unusual patterns. So which pass through. So we have a server. Server is full-fledged server. Server is a rack server. Server is a secured server. Server is a configured one server. Correct? No? You can easily measure. It goes directly and connect go through host IDs. That means to say, if a based on intrusion detection system available already, and some sort of a files, folders, images, whatever the data which are goes through that one, identify such a way that who are coming from the trusted network or untrusted network. See, keep in mind, the total level of measuring performance and the qualitative option with the help of standard device called external router. External router ultimately acts like a firewall. External router ultimately acts like a physical secure device. External router ultimately acts like transparent one, how which are going to be manageable. That means to say, intrusion detection system consists of to find out a erroneous, find out secure or the privacy and the safety of an exchange of a flow which comes from the untrusted network to the trusted network. We can identify such a way that multiple number of systems, in which way the box we are seeing, like a polling booth box, voted box, those are acts like a server which are high level configured, which goes such a way that filtering, packet filtering, circuits, gateways related to. Similarly, in which way you can identify the firewall internally and externally also. there should be a standard device in order to manage any sort of intrusion detection and the system which are going to be performed. See what are all the level of or the characteristic features of network based. If you see network based, which automatically reside in a computer or an appliance connected to the segment of an organization. See, if your boundary is logically or physically available with the help of wired network without wire or wireless, which are going to be significant characteristic feature available on network itself only. Looks for signs of attack. Chances are at any time, correct? No. See, you are following. Your laptop or a desktop or a cellular phone or whatever the palm top you are using, we can easily set up such a way that which are going to be sometime which are through wire without wire also. How the attack can find out, because it pass through only network. You can find out through the log table. You can find out through how the level of the processing, similarly transaction, similarly the activities and the tasks which are going to be executed from who are all the users are available, how many users at a time in the network. And when the examining packets, especially the asset, the property is a packet, then there should be network intrusion detection prevention system looks for attack pattern, which say that one only the beginning of the pattern, no end of the pattern, no middle level of the pattern which are going to be at. We are not in a position to understand what level, at what certain extent, these are all going to be suddenly, immediately, which are much more attack with the various other sense of different type of a device or different type of an options. And we can make sure such a way that some sort of a standard installed at specific place, network where it can be voice traffic going into and out particular network. You have observed no external router. The external router is a device automatically carrying the flow of an information in order to manage how the inputs are, the outputs which are getting in, getting out, correct? No? We can easily install a specific process and the understanding the level of a packet's movement from inside than the outside, especially in case of external router. Similarly, signature matching. See, there should be a comparison between a person who is lying, person who passed through the network. Is it going to be mappable? Is going to be understandable? Is an exact person authenticated to detect? In order to detect, there should be detection of a process, an attack, and the network intrusion detection prevention system look for various types of an attack patterns. Pattern in the sense I told you very clearly as a tuple level of representation in the form of how the walking pattern which are going to be movement. So similarly, in which way the audio signal representation, or in which way the scaling of the waveform, many things, patterns attached. And we can make use a standard special implementation of TCP/IP stack. See, because any sort of an application oriented, because the secure flow of an information which are going to be executed in presentation layer. Because the implementation is very easy, you can easily identify which one is most reliable, which one is most guaranteed, which one is going to be connection oriented. All the things you can easily identify with the help of TCP/IP. See, complete procedure, you can say you have to set up and verify the protocol stack. How many number of what sort of a setup rules and the procedures are available from the low level layer to the upper layer, top to the bottom, bottom to the top. Similarly, looks for invalid data packets also. We can easily measure if these data are not shoot for, not mean for, not usable for, not adapt to the specific application, then you can say invalid data packets. Once the verification is going to be identified, any sort of an application, higher order protocols are examined unexpected packet behavior. Even though if any chances which are not going to be identified with the help of the standard protocol stack verification, invalid data, and the chances of one more level of verification which are going to be happen with the help of higher order protocols. Higher order protocol in the sense, suppose which are all the protocol making use a transparent layer protocol, which are going to be make use a complete guarantee level protocol, the reliable level protocol, TCP. Through that one, what sort of an application from, suppose you take NNTP, HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, Telnet, these are all standard higher order protocols. You can make sure there also can easily identify. What are the merits and the demerits of network intrusion detection prevention systems? You can see which are going to be look like a very, very fantastic network design, and the placement of complete level of protection prevention can enable organization to use a few devices to monitor large network. It need not to be made such a way that the monitoring to display the complete strategy. We can make use of very tiny devices. We can make use of a very small setup for a bigger network also, or a larger network also. How? We can easily configure with high level of setup of an information with the help of hardcore, or else we can say the motherboard, CPU, whatever it may be, circuitry board itself only. We can say some of the standard softwares which port scanner, similarly packet analyzer. These are the things I tell you. Still further, how we can practically understand this concept. We can make use like a packet analyzer, similarly port scanner. See, any sort of an application which are going to be executed with a service. Each service having a standard reserved port connectivity. Port number represent 2 power of 16, 65,536. Start from 0, 65,535. If so happening, which port which are going to be analyzing, which port which are going to be utilizing, all these things, which are some sort of a monitoring of a wider scope network, are usually passive and can be deployed into existing with little disruption to normal network capacity, which are not much side effects to give to any network which are available without a signal represent, without making use of backup, without making use of power supply, which are going to be provide a solution if something goes wrong, disruption or insecurity happen. We can do an operation in normal network itself. Those are the very maximum level and the merits various aspects of network intrusion detection and prevention system. Not usually susceptible to direct attack and may not be detectable by attack. See, some of the disadvantages are there. We can't identify this attack coming from X user, this attack coming from the effect of that one is from the Y user, which those things are impossible, but you have to do various other process, various other procedures, various other way of verification. What you observe like a verification. Similarly, you can say what are the network intrusion detection prevention system advantage, further continuation, which are going to be overwhelmed by network volume and fail to recognize attacks. Chances are there if it's which are going to be more above the level of network and the voluminous state and the vast level of the procedure or the protocol which are going to be governed, then these are all very, very tough to recognize or very, very complex way of recognizing or detecting the level of attacks. Requires access to all traffic to be monitored. See, we can find out, I told you like X is the level having X1, X2, similarly Y is the level Y1, Y2 user level. If that is the case, how you have to go for drawing a lines, drawing a traffic rule, drawing a set of procedure from the beginning point to end point, that will be the laborious procedure. Not in a position to analyze encrypted packet. See, only the cipher level, only the public level of a packet which are available, we can easily analyze. But if it's an encrypted one, the data is a private one, is completely with a password set, whatever it may be, we can say encrypted, very, very difficult to analyze. And important aspect is reliability. Attack was successful or not, correct? No. See, in order to manage making use that complete packet setup for the use for the other application anywhere else, which are not in a position to understandable. Some forms of attacks are not easily with the level by network intrusion detection prevention system, specifically those involving in a set of fragmentation. See, packet line, if you are using like a fiber optic 1025 standard, so if you are using like a wired network like a Cat3 cable, category 3 cable, category 4 cable, category 6 cable. Similarly, if you are using like a Wi-Fi, see one to another, there we can make use of fragmentation of packets, whatever the application, but how the wire is going to be set up, provide a packet delivery. Similarly, how the wireless is going to be. If you take an ATM, if you take a ISDN, if you take a frame relay, if you take a Bluetooth technology, if you take a Wi-Fi technology, if you take a WiMAX, one to another, the fragmentation value will differ based on the payload which are going to be appear. And the host based, I told you very clearly, the backbone of a network consists of multiple number of machines, multiple number of a system. Each system, there should be an identification of a host going to be provided services to the user. You can say HIDPS reside on particular computer or server and monitor activity only on that system. See, never bother about A or B or M or N. X having only the X level of service orientation, service important information. Never think of how the flow which are going to be take place in Y or Z or similarly N, M, N, or it may be connecting as part of a host. If you take an example, X is a host. X will bother only on X1, X2, not any other variable of parameter setup. If actually the benchmark level guidelines and monitor the status of key system files and detect when chances of intruder creates, modifies and deletes files, you can get through the display and you can easily monitor. Some standard level of commands are available. If you are making use like a maps, so net maps, so N maps, you can call this one important software is there, N maps. So similarly, Wireshark, WIRESHARK, Wireshark. Similarly, you can go for finding how a modification create the packets which start. Say once which comes to the for the communication purpose, different value of representation. If you go further higher level, then how the changes. Most of the host intrusion detection prevention systems work on the principles of configuration or change management. Dynamic, that means to say, if any changes which are going to be take place time to time, the dynamic level of a management, dynamic configuration setup, which are going to be understood within the host, not the outside the host. Important advantage over a network intrusion detection prevention system is installed so that it can access information encrypted when traveling over network. See, not only residing, not only the storing at the time, which start from moving from one location to another location, by the time also you can easily find out the accessibility. And still some of the advantages can detect local events on host system and detect attacks that may elude or a network based. See, you can easily detect a simple manner because of the host setup of that one. Similarly, you can detect attack that may once again impact on network base, both together. Function on host system where encrypted traffic will have been decrypted and is available for processing. See, once you say host system, if any sort of information not in a position to understand, which flow through a complete level of a traffic, then how we can decrypt the data, how we can encrypt the data which are available for processing. Similarly, which are not going to be impacted at any moment with the help of switched network protocols. Switched network protocol in the sense, if you take like PSTN, public switch telephone network, public switch packet network, one to another is different. The packet is continuous flow, correct? No? Which are going to make use of standard level of real time, which are not going to be affect any private network which are available, which are making use through a network. Also detect inconsistency in how application and how the system programs are used by overall setup records stored in RDP. We can easily identify with the help of a log table at what time the system have attacked, at what time system is supposed to be idle state, at what time system is going to be perform a better task. All the thing because of there should be some sort of inconsistency how the application, how the system program which are going to be executed within the secured environment. Still further, more management issues are come to because there should be a policy matter, there should be a documentary issue which are going to be maintainable. If something goes wrong, you write the table, correct? No? Is it once again going to be happening? How the improvement of that one? These are the management issues. Vulnerable, both direct attacks and the attacks against host operating system, which are much more difficult to manage as like a set of attacks. So as like a set of hacking and some sort of vulnerabilities, which never detect the multi-host scanning nor scanning of non-host network. See, keep in mind, even though we are a multiple number of hosts or systems are connecting together, never perform because the beginning part, the exit part, entry part and the exit part itself only which are going to be scanned. That's why never detect a multi-host scanning or a scanning of non-host. Non-host network devices. Suppose we take N1 is a network, N2 is a network, N3 is a network. N1 having a multiple number of hosts, N2 having multiple number of hosts. There should not be any relation between N1 and N2 in which way the hosts H1, H2, HI, HJ, HK, whatever it may be. These are how going to be scan or a non-host services of the complete network. Similarly, susceptible to some denial of services attacks. How long which are going to be. Similarly, can use a large amounts of disk space. No doubt about that one. If how the buffer flow, creativity happens to be maintained, a set of procedures which are going to be executed, that one you have to be very cautious. Now we can look forward and manageable. And also the inflict of that one performance which overrides the complete host. The chances of which are going to be looked further, how which are going to be relayed. Examine data traffic in search of pattern that match known signature. See how which are going to be detection pattern are going to be happen, going to be close checker, and there should be a comparison now in which way the entry happen from the signature personality, similarly which are already there any sort of information. There should be signature. Widely used because many attacks have clear and distinct signature. Because signature is providing a complete information about user and the manpower who are all the part and parcel of intrusion, detection, prevention system. And some sort of a problem which are going to be approachable once the new attack strategies are identified. And also there should be a simplified, optimized and similarly normalized database of a signature must be continually updated. See, today we logged in. Similarly, due to various other aspects, date of birth, similarly parent, and the identity of the physical, how they did, correct? No, every moment. See, once you are interacting with the area of specialization of policy matter, there should be updation of a database. And statistical, I told you very clearly, anomaly based, we start with behavioral and properties of IDPS. Look like a sample network compared to traffic that is already known to be the normal. So we say that 100 users are there. Within the 100 user, how the flow of an exchange which are going to be transparent between a number of users are already manageable. When measured activity is outside baseline, there should be a number of other parameters and how which are going to be cope up with that one. You can say IDPS will trigger and also the alert and provide a signal representation such a way that which are going to be further improved. IDPS can also detect new types of attacks. See, keep in mind, attacks which are going to be happen at any time of a moment and at any position, at any logical level. but which are going to be detected with the help of new types of attacks. Require much more chances of overhead and processing capacity than signature based. See what we observe there should be a certain restriction because in which way comparison we can make from the existing database. But here, once again, the processing capability is much more overhead compared to the signature based. May generate many false positives. Chances are the terminology false positive are more compared with the signature. And some of the important like a stateful protocol analysis, what we observe like a statistical, similarly signature, host based to network based. Same fashion like a stateful protocol analysis, SPA process, the comparing with predetermined profile of definition of any variance, how the activity and each set of rules and the procedures are available, observed even to identify the various type of deviations. And also stores and use relevant data detection in a session which are going to be established, and also multiple requests and the response which are ready to come. See, within a window, we have an opening option of multiple number of windows. See, if you restrict for the talk, what we are doing interaction with like a cryptography and network security option. But in addition to that one, we may execute with any sort of backbone or the network type of utility. Those are all going to be multiple requests and the response. Even say multiple sessions, you can open like a telnet 1, telnet 2, just press Alt F1, Alt F2. We can find out the different type of sessions or scheduling options. Attacks which are going to be happen in case of multi-session also, in case of multiple requests also, in case of multiple response. That's why deep packet inspection. Some of the important deficiencies, you can say drawbacks, analytical complexity, very tough to measure such a way that what level of a time complexity, what type of a space complexity, which are going complexity. Processing overhead, because see once which comes to a market, which comes to a business level, then we can say how the vast level of the flow which are may fail to detect unless protocol violates the fundamental behavior. The chances of identifying a clear picture about the flow with the help of protocol, if those protocols set up itself only violation, which are not in a position to fundamental the behavioral activities and attitude, then the chances of complexity is keep on increasing. May cause problem with protocol. It can examine. Once again, you have to go for cross check. That is one of the important drawbacks. Log file monitor. This is very, very important. If you take any sort of a firewall, if you take any sort of what we observe like a standard level of filters, similarly standard level of firewalls. In all the cases, log file monitor similar to the NIDPS network intrusion detection prevention system. Review log files generated by server, because once you start the server, from the date onwards, you keep on breathe, allowing such a way that in which way signal which goes directly to the DMA, which directly goes to the society, which directly goes to the level of interaction from the top to bottom, bottom to top. Network devices, if any connection, so even other level of a patterns and the signature also, which are going to be pop up in this review. Pattern that signify attack may be much easier to identify when the entire network and its systems are viewed holistically. See what will happen if any sort of a pattern approaches which are not in a position to map, not in a position to matching, then the attacks may be much easier to identify a complete entire network. You say that one, not you have to take a decision only because of the fuse problem, only because of the impedance problem, only because of capacitor problem. Take all and so, what are the effects of it? Requires allocation of considerable resources such a way that it will involve the collection and also provide a movement and storage and analysis of large quantities of log table. See, today we can easily observe ourselves within a short span of a time how we can easily get through www, Amazon.com, Yahoo, Bangalore University have their own setup flow of resource allocation. And what are the behavioral of IDPS? We can say once the intrusion detection prevention system detects an anomalous network situation, it has a number of options. You can choose such a way that how which are going to be classified, how which are going to be activated, how which are going to be deactivated, how which are going to be fulfill the passive operation, how which are going to be normal procedure in order to detect for prevention measurement, all which are going to be a challenging and the opportunity for us to study thoroughly a practical environment with the help of Nmap, with the help of Wireshark, with the help of standard scanner, can say port scanner, can understand easily. If so, active process, active responses, definitely action initiated with certain types of alerts triggered, which are going to be cope up with. If you go with like a social network, if you go with like a WhatsApp, if you go with like whatever it is, all are network based on how we can trigger it. Passive response options simply as the available responses which are going to be a standard options for a simple report in order to understand what is meant by IDPS. Selecting IDPS approaches and the concerned product. If you make sure such a way the technical specification for understanding technical and policy consideration, no, similar organization requirements and constraints, these are the complete information how we can understand easily all the flow to go one by one and you can study next class. Get through that one, you can find out ourselves to how we can get through in next class. We say that one product features and the quality analysis sufficiently. How we can just thoroughly one of the other find out the strength